Menahot Daf Mem Amud Aleph, 3 lines from the bottom. We were going back last part. We're going back and forth, and in the case, we're worried about a case of maybe the techelet won't be techelet, it'll be indigo blue, and you wouldn't be able to tell which one. Now, the Gemara then asks a simple question. The Gemara says, "Look, the kid, check. Don't avoid using techelet because you're worried of a scam. Check if it's techelet or not." The Gemara says, "Okay, elag zira mishum taimeh." The reason why we said we don't want to use techelet is because in a linen garment, because we're worried that maybe the thread that was used for techelet was used for testing, and we can't use testing thread for techelet. That's why we don't know. The Gemara says vilich tiva adistiki. That's the case. Let the thread for testing be written on documents, and the documents will be used instead. And therefore, you have no worries about tzitzit anymore. The Gemara says adiski lakum v'lismoch. How are we going to only rely on documents that we're sending off to each other to check if it's real techelet? We're not gonna. People don't pay as much attention to what she says. Where it says Amaravara says, okay, fine. Ashta Hametz Pesach Mikbrim Tikaret. If on Yom Kippur and Pesach, where we have a mitzvah of fasting on Kippur and eating Hametz and not eating Hametz on Pesach, and if you violate that, you get karet. Samachina Adistiki, we rely on documents, meaning Betin sends out papers throughout the lands announcing when they are, once we know Rosh Chodesh. Hachad Aseh over here, which is Techer, which is regular Aseh. Of course, again, for sure, we could use a document. Questions back on. Therefore, the Gemara has to do another explanation. This must be something I have in Babel. And Kavati and in Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Lezer has the same thing. Shema Yekare Sidino B'toch Shalosh Sheet Prinav. The talking about case where we're worried that the linen garment would tear within three finger breaths of the corner of the garment, and he would sew it up with linen thread and leave the end of the thread hanging from the corner to use as white thread. And on top of that, you have the techelet. Therefore, it would be technically part of techelet for mitzvah and partly just to make up for the linen that's missing. And the Torah says you should make tzitzit and not something that's already pre-done. Since over there won't be a case of for kosher tzitziot, therefore we said don't allow techelet and linen garments at all. Okay. And how come we're not worried about a wool garment? Same thing, this fixing issue, because people will not sew it with linen. That's direct shotness. Rabbi Zera untied and removed his seat from his linen wrap because of that problem. Rabbi Zera says, Mishum the decree of no techelet is word because of nighttime. We're worried that if we let you have techelet and linen, people might use it on their linen pajamas, and linen and tzitzit at nighttime is not chiyuv, and because it's not a chiyuv at nighttime, then that is not good enough to override the shotness, isur and yubichaya. Amar Rabba says, I said this in Bavel and in the West also said the name is Zera. He should be good if the garment's made of cloth and the corners made of leather. Hayavet is Hayavet Tzitzit. He should if the garment is leather and the corners are cloth. Pitura is patur from Tzitzit. My time why? Aikar Beged Ba'inam, we need the main part of the garment made out of cloth. And if it's leather, it's not. Now, Ahai Azil Batara Knaf, Ahai would say, no, I don't care what the garment is, I go after what the corner is. Amar Baba Ravuna. Someone made tzitzit on a three-cornered garment and then completed it by adding a fourth corner, and then adding the tzitzit in the last corner. Because it's already pre-done. You already did the strings when it was on three, which is already not chayav. Then you added the fourth. You added tzitzit something. You made a chiyuv into something that already has tzitzit, and therefore it's pasul. Meta have a question. Hasidim is name the original Hasidim. Once they had a garment of three corners, they would already start putting techelet, seemingly against what we just said. Where it says Amara Imam, we say no. Once they were weaving the garment within three finger breadths of the end, then they would put the techelet attached to it. Meaning they wouldn't make till it's completely fixed and completed. They waited until the three finger breadths at the end, which was already chayav in tzitzit. We hold this concept of you can't make something pre-done, like we said. It says, if someone did tzitzit on a garment that already had tzitzit on it, It's kasher. So you added four tzitziot to a garment that had four tzitziot already. It's kasher. Ah, but it's already pre-done. The garment says, "Amarava hashta bekap batusif kai." Over there, we're talking about a case of the problem wouldn't be about adding. The problem wouldn't be about having pre-done because it's already there. What would be a problem? It would be more of a problem if you got to add extra. Like you can't add extra to mitzvot, bal tosif. That's not maaseh. That's not a case of something already done. I'll keep it up. What's the question? Why are you assuming the person who's adding the extra sisir to the beged has the intention to add to the mitzvah and not making new sisir at the same time? Maybe he's putting the new ones and nullifying the original ones. And therefore he's not violating extra, adding. Rather, he's violating making something that's already pre-done. So we see from here that Bizera holds that when you remove original sisit, it's kasher. That and for the new sisit, it's kasher for the new ones, and therefore they're considered pre-made when they're not yet kasher. And that knocks out what we said before regarding the guy who puts the seed on a three-cornered garment and then adds the fourth, that it's pasul. He says it would be kasher. The strings are not chayav in kilayim sha'anez. Ba'afil betalit petura, even in a garment that's patur from tzitzit. Garment says, "My betalit petura." What do you mean patur? Ilmat let lebeshivra, everything's not big enough to have tzitzit. But how about this? Talit shekatam kasebo or shoverbo. A garment that a child can wear that covers most of his head and shoulders, his head and most of his body rather. An adult would use it as like a temporary item. It's not a full-on clothing, but they use it temporarily for the street, for example. But if a minor cannot cover his head and body, even if an adult would use it temporarily, patur from tzitzit. Also something regarding chayav and kishanez. But there we ask the question, what do we say that's similar to the kilaim? If you want to say the same thing applies to the Isur of Klein, and an Klein. We just said there's no such thing as temporary to Klein. All garments, all sizes. Teaching you saying the thing would apply to regarding a linen garment with tzitzit. The sizing would make a difference whether or not it's chayav and sha'anez. So what do we see from here? That it's an exempt garment. What's exempt? No garment is exempt. It's talking about a case if he puts the seed on a garment that already has its seed. We already had this machloket earlier. We just had this 10 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago in the previous in this daf, this concept of adding extras while you have it already on. Gemara says, yes, we're mentioning this halakha as an independent halakha. Once he taught it the first time, we mentioned it as a separate independent halakha. Okay, Tanu Rabbanan. The rabbis learned, and so shall we. Talit kifula hayav zizit, a garment that is folded, is hayav and zizit. Rabbi Shimon is patur. Rishavin, they agree. Shem kifalaha utfara shahayav. If you folded it and then you sewed it together to remain folded, then hayav. Tifra pshita, of course you saw it. It's like another garment. What's the chidush? The Gemara says lo tzicha denakta besichi. Over there, somebody not necessarily sewing, but even he just like nailed it with like tacks. Rabbi Barona equal the Rabbi Nachman. Let me visit this rabbi. Hazit have him kasit l'kufa. He was wearing a folded garment. Urmile hute ila ekuflan. He saw that he put strings at the corners. If shita va'ata hute v'kama dereshe. Eventually, they came unfolded, and the tzitzit threads came up, and it was up high because it unfolded. So where it was originally now went all the way up. Amar Rabbi Barona said to him, "Lav hanu kanaf tichtav Rabbanan b'Oraita." This is not the Torah. This is not the Torah. This is not what the Torah mentioned by corner. Rabbi brought a new garment. He took it off and threw it off and threw a new one. He said, "Mi savrat chovat gavrahu." You think tzitzit is a personal obligation, meaning you don't have to wear tzitzit per se. It's only if you're wearing a four-corner garment to wear tzitzit. He says, "No, chavat alitu." It's a garment required obligation, and therefore, if you have a four-corner garment, wear tzitzit. You don't have to necessarily throw it on and put it off. Zila ramila, go put tzitzit properly to the previous garment you put on, and you can fix it. Let me say that's being a proof. Hasim Sharishna, he came to bring the same price as before. That the first rabbis, once they made a three-cornered garment, they put techelet showing that they applies to even non-worn tziyot. The garments, yeah, it's mitzvah to put the tziyot on. The Gemara says no. Shani Hasidim Mahri and that's not proof that it's not halacha. That could just be that that's what they were strict on. That's not necessarily halacha l'ma'aseh. Upligo de malacha. A malach argued against the Bar Rav Huna that what? An angel found Rav Katina while he was wearing a linen garment without techelet. Amar like Katina Katina. He said Katina, Sedina Bakata Vesabela Zvita. Since you're wearing linen garment in the summer and a woolen garment in the winter, Sisit Shoteched Mateleha. If you're not going to wear it in the linen, because linen, you're not going to wear it in the wool in the winter because it's rounded, when are you going to wear Techelet? Amar he said, Ani Shitu Ase. You Does Hashem give punishment for not doing a mitzvah aseh? Meaning it's a positive commandment. I don't have to fulfill it. Amar they said, Bisman de ika anshinan. Yes, at a time when God's upset, He can punish those who avoid doing mitzvot. Iyamar pishlam havat gavrahu. And that makes sense to say that this is a personal obligation. Because that's why he's chayav because he's not wearing tzitzit. Eliyamar chovat talitu. But if you said like earlier, we said the other rabbi said that it's more of a garment obligation. Why would it be chayav? He's not doing what he's doing. He doesn't have to do it. Gemara says, "Ela mai chovat gavra." What means a personal obligation? Nihi de hayev v'derachman alit kes dalit kahayuva. Yes, it's true that the Torah required someone to wear tzitzit when he's wearing a four-cornered garment. Ki mikasvet lit lavet hayuva him hayev v'harachmana. And a person is definitely not chayav when he's not wearing a four-cornered garment. Ela hachi ka'amar. The angel meant to tell Katina as follows: Tatztekel lemifter nafshach mitzitzit. Then it doesn't look good on you. It's not good for you that you're seemingly just avoiding to wear tzitzit all year round. That's why you're leaving yourself open for punishment. Articles of clothing in the drawer are required for tzitzit because where they might put it on by mistake, even if you're not wearing it out. A person agrees that a person who's making it for his burial shrouds, he doesn't need to put tzitzit on. My time, why? The person who says that you'll be cover yourself, so I need to wear. This burial shrouds is not meant for a living person. Gemara says 1 second. When a person dies, we should put tzitzit on him. Mishum lo egrash haref. Also, because otherwise he looks like he's wearing a four-cornered garment in the grave without tzitzit. It looks like we're making fun of him, and therefore this opinion says we do. Halakha l'maaseh is we do not.